good morning. And it might be, well, it's not quite afternoon yet on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I will give it a couple minutes for people to come in. A couple minutes, probably not, because we have a lot to cover today. I'll probably give them one more minute. In the meantime, I'm going to set up for this to go live on Facebook so that people that are there can also gain information from this webinar. So for those of you who are here, I'm going to start sharing my screen so that you guys can also see that. I'm going to go live on Facebook and we'll get started shortly. How's everybody doing? While I'm doing this, you're welcome to comment on where you guys are connecting from, what part of the States, or even what part of the world. It's setting up now to go live on Facebook. And this webinar is also being recorded. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. There will be a point in which I may, I'm going to switch to a different mode to show you guys my whole screen. Right now, you guys should be seeing my presentation. And today's topic is how to support children with visual supports. This webinar I designed specifically for caretakers and families. So if any of you here are speech pathologists, know that this webinar is at an entry level, assuming no information whatsoever about visual support. If you'd like to share this with the families that you provide services to, there is a link on Calendly on all of the social media platforms that you can share with them, because I'm doing this, I have 2 more sessions of this month. And I might do one of these a month in the coming months, but that's not decided yet. So let me start by welcoming you, those of you who are watching this on Facebook, or those of you who are here with me on Zoom link. My name is Barbara Fernandez. I am a speech language pathologist, and I'm going to share just a little bit more of some of the things that I have been involved in since becoming a speech pathologist. I'm also an author, so I wrote a book, actually was released this year. That's something super exciting. I've developed over 70 different technology products for special education. The vast majority of them focusing on speech, language, and communication. Ever since becoming a mother, I've also switched a lot of my role and find myself being an advocate, not only for my kids, but for all of the children in my community and the children that would benefit the most from the skills and knowledge that I've acquired as a speech pathologist. I own 2 businesses, and under these businesses where I created the different technology products, one of which you're going to be seeing a little bit of today, later on this presentation. Smarty Ears is a company that creates technology solutions. So we have apps for the iPad, and now a new platform called the Speech Language Academy. The vast majority of those apps were developed for speech pathologists. Nonetheless, families can also use them to support their children at home. And Smarties Symbols, which is a collection of visual support and a technology product as well. But what really I'm most proud of is being a mother to my children. This is Victor and Alice. Victor's 8 years old now, and it's insane just to think how fast he went by. And I have little Alice here. I want to share with you a little bit about my journey with my children. Victor was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. And he went into a PPCD classroom, which is a preschool program for children with disability. At least that's what they are called in Texas. And Victor received special education for years. We eventually moved schools. He is now fully integrated in the general education classroom and doing really well. Alice, now she's 6 years old, and she also went to a preschool program for children with disability, a PBCD program, at the age of 3, but for a different disability. Now we're still investigating, doing assessments, but both Alice and Victor both received speech language services. Alice is currently being evaluated so that we can determine how to best continue to support her. Having these roles reversed from being in one side of the table as a speech pathologist to being a speech pathologist of children who require unique services really changed my perspective in a lot of different things, and also reinforced a lot of the things that I've already been a believer of, but from a different perspective. And so a lot of what you'll see today is this combination of my experience as a mother and my background as a speech pathologist. So I'm going to talk about what we're going to try to cover today, and it will be about 45 minutes of presentation. We're going to talk about some introductions, which is what we covered. I talked about me, and I would love for you guys to start typing on the chat where you guys are at. You're also welcome to send in questions using the Q&A. You can go on the Q&A. People won't see the questions you ask. Only I will be able to see those questions. I'm going to cover what are visual support, what are communication boards, what's a symbol communication. I'm going to discuss and explore the different types of visual support. And I am going to help you create a type of visual support 100% free with the tools that are available to you on your computer today or on the internet. Then I'm going to show you how to create those same materials using the technology that I created. Then finally, I'm going to talk about a little bit of advocacy, and I'm going to open up for specific questions that you guys might have at the end. This picture here, it says no downtime. It's going to be a slightly fast-paced presentation today. But like I said, you're welcome to type in the questions. And anytime I find a break, I'll come look at the questions and try to answer them as best as I can. So one thing that I asked as you guys signed up for this webinar was, what would you like to learn? And one of the questions that you also answered is, what materials do you have to create? What resources do you have to create any visual support today? And somebody said that they don't have anything. We had people comment that they've never created anything. So several of you are really starting from scratch, and that's okay. And that's what I'm here for today. So you have heard about this word in different Facebook groups, visual support. If you look at this picture here, I'm a big traveler. I love to travel. As you look around, you have a lot of written language. To us, some of us who don't speak Chinese, all this written language has very, very little meaning to us. We see all this written information, and if you were traveling to China and you needed to find a bathroom, you'd have to look through all this signage with a written text only and try to find one that meant bathroom. You're desperate there, trying to use a restroom, you look around and you don't see anything because it's really hard to identify meaning in a language you don't speak or you don't understand well yet. Now, you could be in China and you see this. This here, once you look around and you see this image, you know exactly what it means. You know that there is a restroom in there, and that means restroom. Nowhere in that sign says the written word in English, restroom, but you know it's a restroom. And even you know which door to go into because there's a picture of a woman, which is like us with a cape, not a dress. And you have a guy, so you know which one is the women's restroom and the men's restroom, because we utilized a visual representation to give meaning to a concept, the concept of bathrooms. So visual support really is anything that supports our understanding of the meaning using visuals. In this case, is a picture of the restroom. How many of you have gone and tried to drive into the airport and you see that picture? When you're driving, you don't have a lot of time to read a airport, a 9-letter word that says airport. But if you see a plane, you know which exit to take to go to the airport. Sometimes your brain just processes all this so fast, you're not even realizing that that's the visual that will take you to the airport. And so visual support helps us gain information about a meaning that we need to go to assist us. Now, I want you to take a few minutes, look through this picture, go one by one, and try to think on your head, how many of these do you know exactly the meaning of just by the picture? I came across this visual and I did it myself. So I'm gonna stay quiet for a second and let you guys think through these pictures and try to associate meaning with each one of them. And you can go ahead and type on the chat how many you got correct or how many you could associate meaning. So count on your head and count how many you're able to get. So you'll see here, the first one is the airport sign. Then you have male, female, taxi, a phone, money exchange, shopping, a train, passport, which is probably the immigration. Then you have security, parking, cash, an ATM machine, a place where your suitcases are coming, lending, departing, access to internet, a Wi-Fi, the escalators, a hot drink, question, information, the smoking area. So we could go through this and you will see that none of these pictures need any word to know, for you to know the meaning. You might have gotten close to 100% of them. Maybe I might have missed one or two. Now, the ones you might have missed, which for me was actually the male and female, but actually now that I'm thinking, it's probably the individual pictures in the restroom, so that the male door, the female door. So those probably are used for the restroom. But the ones that were a little confusing for me was mostly there's these 4 areas here that have the planes departing and going down. So you have 4 pictures for those. Now, there could be different meaning, but we really don't know. And this is something I didn't know. Now, when you think of creating these visuals, it's really important that they are clear. When we translate all of that concept that we already know about what visuals are, when we think of our children, our goal is to create a setup of images that clearly represents what kids need. Now, kids aren't typically driving to find the airport. And most likely, we are taking our children to the restroom. We are in charge of, as we take them on trips or take them out, is to look for where the restroom is and take our children to the restroom. So we're the ones doing that. But what are kinds of things that we can utilize, that kids can utilize to help them navigate the world better? And here are some of the words that you might have heard. It's a visual schedule, which we talked before. A visual schedule, it has a sequence of events. It could be timed, or it could just be the sequence in no particular set of order of time. So for example, here you have Riley's bedtime. He has to hang up the towel, get dressed, put dirty clothes in the basket, brush the teeth, take medicine, and get in bed. He didn't say at 8 p.m., you hang up the towel. At 8:05, you get dressed. the child just knows that after he does one thing, what comes next is this other one. Now, for some kids, they might be just learning to get an idea of visual schedules by what happens first and what happens next. So first, this is something for school. First, you do table time, and next you do playtime. So table time is for the work, but then you do play. Here's another one with 10 steps. Ellie's daily schedule, morning work, morning meeting, calendar math. And this is also for a specific child in a classroom. You start thinking of the routine that you have in your home and imagine how hard it would be for me to create a schedule that applies to my own children. Even my two children, their schedule is different. Their order of events are different. Then if I get my schedule, I put up online for you to use with your child. Highly unlikely that that will match because you might have a specific order of things that you do that works for your family. What works for my family doesn't work for your families. And this is why it's important that you're creating these things custom to what meets the needs of your own child. And a lot of these cookie cutter things that you might find might not work. So you're going to have to tweak something to make sure it meets your needs. Another set of items are called communication boards. And these are things used to communicate. Instead of an order of events, children can point to these pictures to tell you their wants, needs, thoughts, or any type of communication using a picture. So here you have these examples. For example, I'm thirsty. I want to swing. Now, these could be words that you are taking to a park. Now, one thing that I want to share is all of these, with the exception of the last blue board, were materials created by other parents that I don't know. So based on what they have here, I inferred where it's being used. And context is really important. If you create a visual schedule of something for bedtime story or for bedtime, you can't just use that same visual schedule in school and vice versa. So whatever you create can be, with the exception of one thing, which I'm going to get to it later, really specific for the context. So you might find yourself having different ones in different parts of your home, in different scenarios. If you're taking your child to the park versus if you're keeping your child at home, these are different materials that you can create easily, some of them easily, and use in different places. Now, what do you need to get started? What's the game plan? The very first thing you need is plan the words. You can get a piece of paper and start thinking of one specific routine that you want it done. And from that, you need to find pictures that would represent well what you want to go along with those words. So for example, one of the words could be go to bed. You can look up and find an image that you think represents going to bed. And a lot of us use Google Images. You can go to Google Images, scroll through the pictures, and find something that your child associates with better to put on that visual schedule. And the final part is building your board or building your schedule, building a communication board. So these would be the first 3 steps. And there's a lot more to it, but today we're covering up our bases, our basic items. Now, remember I said a lot of things depend on context. One exception to it is something that we call core vocabulary. A core vocabulary is this term that we use to describe a tiny set of words that they are used most frequently in speech or when they are writing. So if you were to pick up a random piece of paper, like I just picked up really this congratulations sheet from my children's school of acceptance letter for something. If I was to look up all the words that they use there and analyze, a lot of these words here would be in that paper. probably I know for a fact that those words were in there. We have a specific set of words that are typically used all the time. We just repeat it all the time. And here are some examples of those words: I, you, and on, want, go, no, and yes. There are a lot more words that compose the core vocabulary set of words. Now, often you will see when it comes to communication boards, these words being often included. Now, applying common sense to a lot of this. I remember back in the day when my child didn't have speech yet. For my son, we used to keep, and I have a photo, I just couldn't find this photo, a set of images on my refrigerator. If I had put those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words on my refrigerator for my child to access at the age of 3, he would probably not ever have used those, because there's nothing he can communicate to me yet. So he could have pointed to want, to say that he wanted maybe something in the refrigerator, or maybe he wanted to go outside. Now, these core words can be combined and utilized in a variety of different contexts, because I can say, I want go, meaning he wants to go outside. I want you. I can combine these words to make phrases. So he could use those to say, I want you, meaning he wants to be with me. Or just say no. Or I want in, maybe to try to say that it's in the refrigerator. But you can imagine that this is pretty complex. So the things that would be on my refrigerator, it was none of these words. I would have a picture of a water. I would have a picture of juice, cheese, of items that would be in the refrigerator, that if he was hungry, he could go to the refrigerator, pick up that picture and show it to me. If he wanted water, he could give me, and he was 3 years old, so he couldn't actually serve himself water, which is something that finally, we are there, he gets his own water, and thank goodness he's 8. Now, you see, I put this drink there it's called Yakult. It is an Asian drink that was really popular in Brazil. I'm originally from Brazil, and I love that drink. My kids love this drink. It was something that was often in my refrigerator. So if I was to give you a set of pictures to use in a refrigerator that was mine, you would have that word in there that likely you have no need for. You may have things in your refrigerator that is useful and fits the routine of your family, but it doesn't fit any other family. And for me, this is one example. So when you're thinking of selecting and creating items for your board, you may, if your child's at that level, include these words that belong to core vocabulary. Water is one of them. But you are also going to find yourself thinking of words that depend heavily on the context. For example, if you're going to the swim park, probably the word pool, swim, water, thirsty are all going to be there, or life jacket. Now, those words don't make a lot of sense for your board to use inside the home. So just always keep context in mind. But enough of this theory. I'm ready to show you guys how to do this. And the first way I'm going to show you how to do this is 100% free custom visual schedule. I'm going to do this using PowerPoint, Keynote, or Keynote. So if you are on a Windows computer, we're going to use PowerPoint. If you are on a Mac computer, use Keynote. This presentation was done using Keynote, and now I have a blank page. And what I'm going to do is we're going to create a visual schedule of what my morning routine is for my family. So what you will do, you open the Keynote or a PowerPoint presentation. So I can type in the title. I already just forgot what I told you guys we're going to create. I'm going to create a night routine for my son. So Victor's night schedule. And this information here, depending on the age of the child, it's more for your information than for the child if they are non-readers yet. This is one thing that my son learned to read fairly young, which is something typical also for kids in the spectrum. Sometimes they learn to read much sooner than they are using verbal speech. So I'm going to go ahead and start showing you. So you saw here that on Keynote, we have these squares. I already created my first square, but I already skipped a step. So I want to start thinking first. And if I had a piece of paper, I would have done this on a piece of paper. I'm going to start creating the text. So usually when he comes home from school or when it's like 6, 7 o'clock, so around that hour, at 6 o'clock, he does piano practice. Then we have dinner. He probably will take a shower, brush his teeth, get in bed, read a book, which is usually what he does every night, and try to sleep. So we have a 7-item visual schedule for his night routine. So that means that I need to plan for 7 items here. Now, the tricky thing here is this setup for Keynote is horizontal because it's on presentation mode. So I'm going to have to adjust this to fit 7 items here. So what I could do is I could break it into, let me see how many I can fit. So I'm going to go to the style. I'm going to make my color white. And I'm going to do a line border. And I'm going to copy and paste and try to see how many I can fit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then what I'm probably going to do is do 2 more on the side. So the second row. So I have to move this out of place. And I don't remember, I should have marked how long it took me to create these. So let's say I started, I'm going to set up my timer here. On my phone clock. Because I want to see how long it takes us to create this. So I already determined that piano practice the second one was dinner. The third one was brush teeth. Then we have get in bed. Then read a book. Then we have, wait, I skipped dinner, take a shower. So I need, after dinner, I said it was take a shower. So I'm going to move this take a shower here. Brush teeth. Read a book. Get in bed. And finally try to sleep. Okay, so now our final step, but honestly, I feel like it's missing something here. So I should probably have a number. numbers to go. And I could have done 1, play piano, so that they know the order and don't get confused by 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I can delete this. So now they know the order. Another possibility is that you can print out this every day and have this as a check mark. So you put a little check mark on the side, even though this check box here looks a little big. So let's do something like this. So every time as they do it, they will check mark. Now, it might get a little tricky because we picked a bedtime routine, and having your child walk around with this paper until maybe the time that they get in bed, they wouldn't be marking these things. But this could be useful for any other profile. Now, earlier, you saw that I talked about this, right? We talked about all of these words that you don't know if they have any meaning. So what we're missing here are the pictures. So to get these pictures, I'm going to go to Google now. And I might have to switch because you guys probably can't see my whole screen. So let me see. If anybody has trouble seeing my screen, please comment. I'm going to go now to Google and try to find these pictures. For example, here, play piano. On Google, you can click here on images and you can get and put these pictures there. Now, this is only something that you can do because this is a personal use. If any of you here wanting to start sharing this, make sure that you're not getting issues with copyright, which is another issue that you have when you start using images from Google. So I'm here dragging and dropping these pictures on the page. Now, dinner for you might look different. So maybe if your family typically uses pasta, you can already put a picture of a pasta. Now take a shower. The next one is brush teeth. We're getting there. So we literally made this together today. And I'm now on about 5 minutes time, how long it took. Now there's a couple minutes. And you can even, for example, for get in bed, as opposed to having an adult, I can put like get in bed kid. And you can, even though this kid here looks like he's actually waking up. So you might end up spending a little more time than I am trying to find a picture that works for you, for your family. So read a book. And the same, for example, if I type in read a book, I get all these different ones. Read a book in bed, which could be a little more closer to what you're hoping to accomplish. You always keep that in mind and adjust the visuals so that your child can get meanings that are meaningful to him or her. And the last thing is sleep kid, so that I can get a picture of a child too. Here we go. And we did it. So my timer is saying that it took me 6 minutes to put this together. Now, after I've done this, you have it on PowerPoint. You can click here, export, and you can export it as a PDF. Once you have that as a PDF, all you have to do is print. Now, I want to show you something that I created to make this process a lot easier. It's called Smarty Symbols. So this platform here that you see, Smarty Symbols, I created to help expedite all of this process and also remove the ambiguous images that you will be getting from Google to create visual support. Once you gain access to Smarty Symbols, you get access to these 4 areas. And these images here are the latest images we created. So if you wanted to do the same work, for example, read a book. Instead of searching on Google, you search here and you find kid appropriate images. So this here is for read out loud. If you're doing a schedule for school, or if you're a homeschooling parent that you're doing reading out loud activities, you can download this picture here. And now that picture you see is right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that image that is now on my computer, and I can drag and drop here. So instead of getting random images from Google, you go to a place where these images are there for you. So for example, instead of read a book, for this doesn't work well because I wanted a read a book in bed, which we can do a search for that. But I put on this website that has 30,000 images that are kid friendly. And if I show you one of the biggest benefits of having these images that are kid friendly, well designed, and thought specifically for the function of communication. Remember when we're talking about the airport, you can create these things with images that were specifically designed by professionals with the purpose of easily conveying the information. And it's easy when you're talking about concrete words like ball, airplane, eat. But when you start getting in items of core vocabulary, some of which are abstract. For example, these words here, they're all core vocabulary. So you can have things, for example, a representation of a birthday, bird, big, a box, brother, buy, cake, comb. You have a lot of things that you can even get ideas from that you didn't even think you needed on a board, but we give you, oh, it'd be great to have a word for chips. I didn't even think of this. Or cut, dense. You go through these pictures and you find the vocabulary words that your child might need. Now, this is one way to use the website. Now, you would still be downloading and exporting is still time consuming. If you go to the printing center, nonetheless, I have put together a setup for creating visual schedules. You see here, we have sequences, interactive books, and let me show you how easy it is to create time management activities. Remember, we talked about doing a visual schedule. You select that template, and I want to try to create something really similar for my son. So the first, there's a piano practice. You drag and drop, and look at this. It's already in place. And if you want, you can change the text to play piano. The next thing we had on the item it was dinner. It's not center. Dinner. Drag and drop. What was the third thing? Take a shower. Brush teeth. Then get in bed. Get in bed. So let's put in bed. So you saw the get in bed didn't really work well. So you can just type in bed and you can look for an image that works for you. For example, this is a sign language for sleep. You can put in the bed word because actually you don't want them to go to sleep yet. But when I think of for my daughter, it says here bedtime story. This picture is perfect because my daughter is a non-reader and we are usually the ones reading the story for her. So we put here bedtime story. And even here for bed, if I decide to switch from bed to bedtime, and then 7, we can put sleep or turn off lights. We want to turn off. I'm going to change the text here, turn off lights. And then finally, sleep. So did you see how much easier it was to create a visual schedule that you can just click download PDF? And let me show you how nice it looks. So this is, I switch here my daily schedule and it already has a checkbox. Now, in the case, if you don't want items 9 and 10, because we didn't have items 9 and 10, you can delete it. If you wanted to switch from my daily schedule to nightly schedule, and I'm going to click and download again. Here is my nightly schedule, 100% custom based on my needs. Now, I want to see because I feel, so we've been here for about 42 minutes. I'd love to show you guys some other areas. For those of you that might have children that are struggling with articulation difficulties, you can create articulation practice cards. So if I come here, so I can select flashcards, I'm going to switch to paper. Remember how I talked on Keynote, how it's horizontal? Here you can easily switch from vertical to horizontal with a touch of a button. You can create a flashcard. So if your child is needing to learn some keywords, if they're working, for example, on learning the B sound, you can select B in the beginning. And you can just drag and drop words that start with the sound B. And let's think of kids that are really young. So I'm going to think of vocabulary that goes right there. Bacon. And badge. A bag. Bagel. And bake. So now look at this. I have 2 pages. When you get access to Smarty Symbols, you can add unlimited activities, create your custom resource, make it in a different language, completely change the text, create communication boards. But not only can you create your own material really easily in a matter of seconds, but you can also access things that people are doing in the community to give you ideas or just download what they're creating. So we have a lot of families that come here and create their resources. Teachers are creating resources. We have currently 6,000 public activities for anyone to create, to just come in and download. So these here, for example, today is the 10th, May 10th. Look at all these activities were created just today on May 10th. If you're looking to create a communication board, you can create even social stories, which is something that I use a lot with my son. So hands and feet to social self, coping skills. Look at this one, created by Corrine. Some coping skills: breathing, count to 10, do something physical, walk and jump, putty, scripture verse, ask help from an adult. This was completely custom. And if you want a copy of it, you just download PDF. And look at this. I have a copy of this myself. Every time I open something, for example, my family is not really religious, so we wouldn't be using a scripture verse. We would be doing something else. So I can change this one to telling a joke. My son loves telling jokes. So I come here, I move this higher, and now I have my own child scoping skills that would work for me and for our family and for my own child. We keep saying children are unique, so we know the need to create unique materials for our own kids. This was a basic overview of what I want to show you guys. Here's some information that I also wanted to share. So Smarty Symbols is $89 a year. You can access it by paying monthly. So if you not sure if you're gonna create this on a monthly basis, you can just go month by month and pay just $10 a month. There's no limit to what you create. And you can access all the images, all the templates, download all the activities you want. Or you can access and prepay the year for $89, and that comes out to about $7 a month. I'm going to go ahead and copy this link here, which says, this is specifically for parents, and I'm going to type it onto chat here to everyone, so you guys can have the link directly to it. Before I let you guys go, there is something that I wanted to share about advocacy. It's something brand new that I've done recently. Is we talk about communication boards and how they are slightly different based on context. This is Victor, and here is me at a city meeting at the city hall here where I live. It was a very last minute. I've been trying to get them to install a communication board in the local playground. And I've been in touch with the City Parks and Recreation for 2 years. So I made my initial contact in 2020. I was having trouble getting the city to install a communication board that I actually designed. So I bypassed all of the work the city would have to do to design the communication board. All they needed to do was to send it off just to a company to print the sign. And I got approval. The city paid for it. The communication board is done printing. They have it in the city. We're just waiting to get it installed. So because I went through all this effort and I saw how hard it is to design and do all of this, I created a new initiative to make this process easy for playgrounds to have accessible communication for everybody. This here, Victor is holding, is a similar sign to what we're going to implement on the city playground. But this here is specifically for school playgrounds. We're going to be donating this tomorrow to the school where he went when he was 3 years old. That is our neighborhood school. And I'm going to be donating this for them to install in their school playground. Schools have the ability to now buy these communication boards from Smarty Symbols. You guys also have the ability to advocate for your children to use city parks and get this also established in your community, so that not only your kids use it, but then all the children from the community use it. And individuals have more awareness that some kids, that actually all of us benefit from communication. My daughter, who is not a non-reader yet, she really benefits from this, seeing a picture associated to just learn new vocabulary. So if this is something that you guys are interested in taking on to the schools where your kids attend, or to the communities and parks where you can also visit the Smarty Symbols website, or our brand new website called playgroundcommunicationboards.com, where you can also get more information. I know that this journey is a journey. For those of you who are not familiar with any of this, I might have given you awesome ideas to start to implement that you can create today without having to spend anything. And you can really support your child in the home, in the places that you guys attend. I am really active on social media. My own professional Instagram is a great place to reach out to me. You can also reach Smarty Symbols on Instagram or on the other portals. My Instagram account is Geek Barbara, which I didn't add here. At Geek Barbara, that's my Instagram. And then you also have Smarty Symbols website, Smarty Symbols contacts on social media is smartysymbols.com. Thank you so much for being here with me today, for participating. Remember, if this is something you know any of your friends or families that you support would be interested, make sure they sign up for the upcoming webinar next week. And I do have another webinar this Thursday, specifically about the playground communication boards. Make sure you sign up for that too, so that you can attend on Thursday. Thank you so much for being here with me, guys, today. Have a wonderful day. Bye.